authentication using cookies. In this example, I want to practically demonstrate to you how one can implement security in a web application with the help of cookies. Basically, what we are trying to do now is, let us say we are going to have two methods or two views we know we have in our web application, about and contact. Right now we know that about and contact will be generally rendered for everybody. But I want to make those two links secured. About and contact should be rendered only if the user has logged in. Otherwise, these two should not be rendered. Instead, they should get redirected to login. So how are we going to implement this is, first in our project, we are going to provide a login controller where we will have a login form so that the user would log in. But what is the meaning of user logs in? As soon as he provides username and password, we are going to validate the username and password, and most important, create a cookie and add it to the response. If a cookie is added to the response, obviously with subsequent request, we are going to get that cookie. And using that cookie, we will check if the user is authenticated or not. That means in the request, if the cookie is present, user is authenticated, and if the cookie is not present, user is not authenticated. As simple as this is what we want to implement now. So we already have this particular application. Let us use the same application rather than creating a new one. So in this, index was there, and then we also have the other methods, about and contact. So right now, if I press Ctrl F5 and execute, we know that about and contact are rendered to everybody. No need of login or anything. But I want to make these two links as secured link. That means they should be rendered only after login. So how do we implement this? First thing I will do is, in my models folder, I will add a class. Let us call it as user profile class. In user profile class, we will have properties for username, get, set. We will have properties for password, and I would also have one more property which is of type boolean to something like implement remember me option, so that the user every time need not log in. So we'll say get, set. Then to implement login, let us now add a new controller. We will call it as login controller. Login controller. Now in login controller, we already have the action method, and this I'm now going to add a view, index view. In the index view, we will have login here. Let's say h3 is good enough. And then we create a form. Now what is this form for? We want to have label, username and password. But what we are also going to do is, from login controller, let us say we will create a user profile object which is in models namespace, and use that as the model. So here we will create a form with @HTML.label. This is for username, and then @HTML.textbox for username, followed by that same thing I would like to do for password, and then I would like to have a checkbox for remember me. And obviously finally we are going to have a submit button. We'll call it as login and value is obviously login. So when I click on this login form, it's going to get submitted to slash, basically implies login slash index. So we are getting the form straight. Oh, it's submitting to, sorry, slash basically means that it is submitting it to root, but we want to submit to login slash index. Action we want is that. Now, for only demo purpose, I would like to make this whole thing look very beautiful. So I'll apply some CSS of Bootstrap. So I'll give div, and for div form hyphen group, and this I'll place it here. Now same thing we should do even for password, and for checkbox we should give div with class name as checkbox, and the way we write checkbox is little different. Here we give label, and inside label we should put checkbox as well as remember me, so we don't need this label now. And of course for button we'll add a class btn, let us say default. So this is going to make the form look very beautiful. You can as well change this to btn success. Color will change here. So text area is coming. Oh, sorry, this is supposed to be text box, and this I want to be actually password. So we have username, password, blah blah, but this also I want to make it look little more clean. So for this we have to add a class called as form hyphen control. So an attribute has to be added. How do we add attribute? We have to add an anonymous object. The attribute name is class, but class is a keyword, so we begin with @ symbol, comma, the value, sorry, equal to the value, which is form hyphen control. So same thing I should give it even for password. Now let us run, and we have it. See this effect? Same thing we can actually have for checkbox. Copy and paste. Oh, it's not pasting. Okay, something wrong with checkbox. Boolean value is required. Sorry, checkbox does not need a class, so just leave it. So the sophistication of the form which we are getting here is all purely because of the Bootstrap. Anyhow, that is not the target here. We just wanted to have a good look and feel. But now the main code goes in login control HTTP post method. I'll put here HTTP post and give here user profile. And then now I want to validate user profile here. So how to do that? Now I'll do a dummy validation. If username and password is same, then I will say it is valid user. But if the username and password is not same, then I'll say it is invalid user. So what to do now? If user dot username is equal to password. It's a dummy validation. Then we write code for valid username and password. What is that we should do? We have to basically remember that the user has logged in, and this is where I would like to create a cookie. Create a cookie object, give the name of the cookie, some name. I am giving it as auth cookie. For this cookie we have to set the value. Preferably let us set username as the value of the cookie. Followed by this, we are going to now set the other properties like expires. But what we want to do is, only if the checkbox is checked, we'll make it as expires true. So how to do that? If user dot remember me, then only we want cookie dot expires to be set. If you are not setting expires, automatically remember it becomes a non-persistent cookie, in memory cookie. And then, as I earlier recommended, always set path as the application path, which we can get from request. And very important of all, add the cookie to the response. But once added, now we should redirect the user. Where shall we redirect? So we'll say here return redirect. Let us redirect the user to root, whatever is the root of the web application. That's where we are redirecting the user to. In this case, obviously it will be home/index. But what if the username and password is invalid? It's going to come here. What shall we do here? What I'll do is, I'll say viewback.error is equal to invalid username or password. And this viewback.error I would like to display in view. It will go to the current view only. So when it goes to current view, here somewhere on top, let us have a div with viewback.error. Now for this to look good, we can give a CSS called as alert warning is good enough. Now run this. Again we are in login index. Give, oh, it should be @ I forgot the symbol @ viewback.error. Now see, no label by default. Give invalid username and password, different username and password. Error is coming. It is submitting to /login. Okay, I forgot to give /. When we don't give, it takes by default from current path. So better give. Again run fresh, type something and here something else, submit. You see, invalid username and password. This is coming for what reason? Because we have the alert here. And most important thing, that formatting is automatically taken care of. But if I want, I can give here something like ABCD, and here also I am typing ABCD, login. We got redirected to home page. But very important thing, when we are redirected to home page, also a cookie is created now. So now what we want to do, the second half, when we click on this about and contact, we would like to check if the cookie is there or not. Let us close this browser. We'll open fresh every time. So now I go to home controller, and in home controller only, let us write one method. I'll call it as private void, say something like authenticate. Now what this authenticate method is supposed to do? Check if the user is authenticated or not. For that, I will try to get from the request a cookie. What is the name of that cookie? From the request, how to get? Request.cookies collection. What is the name of that cookie? Whatever we have used in login controller, same name. This name only we should use. So with that name, if we get a cookie, cookie will not be equal to null. But if it is equal to null, what does it mean? The user is not logged in. Now if the user is not logged in, what shall we do? Obviously we would like the user to be redirected to login page. So now I'll simply use response.redirect. Now what response.redirect does? It will stop processing the current request and it will send a response to browser with the status code 301, rather 302, with the status code 302, asking browser to send a request for this URL, login URL. Now why I am giving /login and not /index? Because /index is anyhow the default action method of every controller. But yes, if you want, you can always explicitly write if required, though it is not essential. So now what is going to happen? This method does nothing if the cookie is found. But if the cookie is not found, it redirects the current request to index. And this method I will simply call from contact and I will call from about. And that's it. Login index page we don't do authentication, but for about we are doing authentication and for contact we are doing authentication. So now I try to click on home, it is working fine. This is the home URL. Click on about and we'll get redirected to login. See, it is login. Now I give here ABCD and I give here ABCD. We go back to home first. After going back to home, now click on about, page is rendered. Click on contact, page is rendered. Why? We have successfully logged in. But let us improve this program little bit. Though with this we have actually finished the base where through cookie we are remembering that the user is logged in. There are some problems. First, now when I try to click on about, the user is getting redirected to login. But after giving a valid username and password, I am getting first to home and then from home again I have to come to about. Why not directly come to about? So what I'll do is, here I will put a string return URL. This return URL I'll pass it as query string to index. Return URL is equal to return URL. So as a query string we are passing to login, and then here we will pass, what is this? home/about, and same thing we will use here also with contact. Let us see now what is going to happen. Now I click on about. It takes me to, okay, because I am already logged in on another tab, it is directly giving me the page. Close the old browser instance. Close all the tabs and run fresh. Now I click on about. I got redirected to login with return URL query string. So click on contact. It is return URL to home/contact. Now what is the advantage? This return URL I can now use it in login controller. So instead of hard coding it to this, we can say string return URL is equal to request.queryString of return URL. So from the query string we are trying to retrieve the URL. Now chances are some user has directly come to login page, so return URL will not be there. So in such case, if string dot is null or empty return URL, such case this is good enough. We redirect to index page. That means if return URL is not there, we redirect to index page, but if return URL is there, we will redirect to what? The value in return URL. Return redirect to return URL. With the small addition, let us see the difference now. I click on about, give username and a valid password, login, and we have still not come to, something went wrong. Return URL. login control, home controller, same thing only. Let us run again. Close the browser, all the tabs, freshly let us run. About, return URL is home/about. Okay, /home/about. About ABCD login. It's not going to query string. What could be wrong? Something wrong is here only. Let us trace it. Press F5. Oh, we are already logged in on another tab again. So let's close it. We'll stop debugging and again press F5. About, we gets redirected to login. Good. I type ABCD, submit. It should take me to studio now. Return URL is null. Okay, why is this return URL null? Simple. We are trying to get return URL from the query string parameter return URL. Though right now return URL is there in this, but when the form is submitted, it is not this which is submitted. Form is always submitted to the action attribute, and in action attribute we do not have return URL. It is only /login. So that is the basic problem. So let us come back to studio, stop debugging, and we have to somehow ensure that in the action attribute return URL is provided. So what we are going to do is here, first it comes here login/index, and from there it goes to view. So this query string parameter I am trying to now going to get in this action method first. So request.query string of return URL may be null, may not be null. So what we will do is simply put this in viewback. Viewback dot return URL is equal to, and this only I'll cut from here and directly paste it here. So into viewback return URL, I'm trying to get the return URL from login/index with get method first. After this is executed, it goes to index.cshtml, and here we have /login, let us say /index, and we give return URL. But sometimes user might directly come to login page. In such case, what shall we do? So I will write here conditional coding. What I'll do is @if viewback dot return URL if is equal to null, we will do one thing, else we will do something. So actually we are supposed to generate this, but I would prefer generating that through html.begin form. Now what is my action method name? Index. In the controller, that is login, comma, we have an overloaded version where we can actually give route values. Route values are going to be appended as query string. So we will give here question mark, property name is return URL, we want equal to, what is that? So it is equal to null, not equal to, let us change it to not equal to, and this value I'll copy here. But there is a possibility that return URL is null. In such case we close it here itself. So begin form is now replacing this line. We don't need this line, delete it. Similarly, going down, I write @html.endform. Now let us run this. Important thing to note is submit. The best overlated method does not match. Oh, small mistake. This should be inside. Now, very important thing, right now we directly came to index page. No, we don't want that. We want to go to about. So from about we got return URL. That we have to notice in source is appended to the action method. Action attribute of the form tag precisely /login/return URL. It has automatically come. And most important thing, you are seeing this %2f, that is the encoded value of slash. Return URL is also automatically encoded for us because of the helper method. Fantastic. So now next piece of code we have to analyze is when we submit this, it is going to take me where? Index under login controller with or without return URL. So login controller index method with HTTP post. If return URL is there, it will take me to, if it is there, it will take me to return URL. Not there, it is taking me to default page. So I now go to about, type here ABCD, submit. I am coming to about directly. But I close the browser, cookie gets destroyed. I run again. Now I go to direct /login. We are not giving return URL, so we should be redirected automatically to the home page, and we are on the home page. Perfect, that is what we wanted. So yes, using return URL we are able to go back to the same page from where we were redirected to the login page, and this is something very important while implementing in projects. Now I want to provide a facility here called as login. How to do that? For this, obviously the menu we are generating is in view start. Sorry, it's in layout.cshtml. So here we have to generate a menu called as login. So display text is login. Login is where it's in login controller and the action method is index. Login method, login controller, action method, and display text is login. So let us check now. Are we getting it? Perfect. Click here and it takes me to login. Point is ABCD, I log in. Once I log in, I don't want this to be login. I want this to change to logout. That means this line should be conditional. And moreover, we have to also provide facility for logout. How to do that? What I am going to do is in login controller, let us add now one more method, public action result logout. Now what is the meaning of logout? It is as simple as forgetting about the username. How to forget username? We have to add again a cookie but with an expired date. That is the logout facility. So I am not interested in the value. We can delete it. We are not interested in conditional. We simply want to give now date time dot now dot add days of -1. So this is going to automatically expire the cookie. But after cookie is expired, where shall we redirect the user to? We can redirect the user to home page, home/index, or you can simply give that's it. So now let us run this. We get now, because we were already logged in earlier, now, oh, we are not logged in, about, we are already logged in. So this should be log out. It is still going to log in. So what is that we should do? In underscore layout.cshtml, we have to write condition here and render either this or logout. Login controller, logout action method. So what is that condition? Obviously that is purely at the on the basis of if request.cookies of the auth cookie is not equal to, sorry, is equal to null. That means auth cookie is not there. So in such case we should render this, else we should render this. Now again press Ctrl F5. See, we got logout. Click on it, we got login. Click on it, we are on login page. Give ABCD, ABCD, and we are login. And very important thing, when we give logout, we can additionally generate here in bracket. I can write @request.cookies.value, and that is nothing but the name of the user, because at the time of creating the cookie, in the value of the cookie I have placed username. So now if the user is already logged in, semicolon expected in underscore layout.cshtml, put semicolon here. @ bracket, then we want this, and finally we again want @ bracket. Oh, it is coming here. That is because of the CSS, because of the bootstrap it is going there. But anyways, you have to do something to ensure that you get proper username. Of course, some styles have to be mentioned, and then we have to mention that it is plain text and not a link. Such kind of stuff is involved in bootstrap for doing this. Or else you can simply use li, and that will also serve the purpose. Just put li. Now run this. Something is still wrong. Li, and followed by li we need a tag. Href, let us give it as simply hash, and within a tag all this text, because the style which is given is by default for all this only. Good enough. Now run. See, ABCD. And of course, ABCD can be something like about or my account or some stuff like that you can give there. So with this, we come to a conclusion of all the basic features we want to provide in a login kind of application. So So we provided login facility, we provided logout facility, we provided facility for redirecting back to the same page after login. But let me clarify one very important thing. It's a very good example for you to learn cookies, but at the same time you should know that authentication and authorization in MVC is not done like this. Instead, there is a built-in framework available for authentication and authorization, and that we are going to learn later. Maybe we can build on that application from here. I can make changes to this application, whatever we have done here, and also use the framework of ASP.NET for authentication. But yes, I would expect you to do this program completely on your own so that you get complete confidence on cookies, which is a very, very, very important topic. Thank you.